Oh, the Audible is on the air. Good afternoon. I am Kim Bokamper. It is game week. Time to get down to some nuts and bolts in football. I've been talking about Uber. I've been talking about Hard Rock. I've been talking to Kenny Walker about the stadium. Now Alain Poupart with us from the MiamiDolphins.com, so we can talk a little bit about the game coming up, and that's exactly what I want to do. An exciting week. The opening week in football, always an exciting week. And just let me know for our viewers out there, if you want to send your questions in, you can go ahead and send them in via Facebook. We'll go ahead and answer your questions as we've gone through the program. We're also on Periscope, MiamiDolphins.com, so a lot of different ways that you can catch up with us. You can catch the archived videos or programs on MiamiDolphins.com or the Miami Dolphins Facebook page. So any way you want to catch up with us, go ahead and get it done. Now, let's first talk about it a little bit. Opening day, my memory of opening day has always been just great. And for me, Dolphins going out, certainly one of the most difficult places to play in the National Football League, the 12th man. And look, I'm going to put this out there. I wouldn't be surprised if Marshawn Lynch is the guy that hoists up the flag that they've got out there. Be a pretty good guy to get beast mode up there for his first year away. They get that crowd going pretty good. You know it's going to be that kind of place. But one thing I thought as soon as I heard the schedule, going out there, if you're going to play Seattle in your schedule on the road, might as well play on opening day when the adrenaline's going to be high for both football teams. I think it gives you one of the best opportunities to win out there.
Well, not only that, there's also like the secrecy factor, the fact that during the preseason you just don't show a whole lot, either on offense or on defense. You keep things fairly vanilla. You work on some things you're going to work on during the regular season, but not a whole lot. So the Seahawks really haven't seen where the Dolphins are going.
Although they're very familiar with Adam Gase from Adam Gase's time with the Denver Broncos, and so there'll be some local knowledge there. But certainly, Vance Joseph on the defensive side, a lot of different things going on there. That wide nine that we've talked so much about over the training camp. We'll see how that works out. But it's going to be an experience out there, and it's a young football team. I'm very excited to see how they go out in front of that crowd, because look, the first thing you got to do, you can't give up big plays offensively, defensively, or to their offense in the first quarter. You just can't do it, and you can't let them come up with a big play defensively against your offense to create momentum and to get that crowd going. You got to find some way to grind it out a little bit early on and try to get that crowd to settle down a little bit.
No question, and that's why if the game plan's conservative early in the game, it wouldn't be a surprise, because as you mentioned, on offense, what you want to avoid are the sacks for the big loss of yardage or the interception. Yeah, I hate to use the whole notion of the punt's not a bad thing, but obviously it's a lot better than throwing a pick or losing a fumble. So if they go conservative early on, it wouldn't surprise me in the least.
Yeah, I think you've got to find to do that, because you give up that big play on either side of the ball early on, and it becomes a death knell for you. They can't afford that. A little news, late additions. A couple days ago, Dolphins went and picked up Justin Hunter, who was a second-round draft pick. He was with Tennessee. So you've got another wide receiver available. Griff Whalen was the casualty there. He was let go. Did some pretty good stuff during the preseason, Griff Whalen. He's kind of one of those Danny Amendola kind of receivers, but just couldn't catch on. Stanford guy. Justin Hunter, what do we think about him? The guy's got a good talent.
High upside.
Yep.
Very high upside.
But again, I always think of, well, if he's got that upside, why was he available?
Because he hasn't lived up to that upside yet. But here's the thing is, right now you got 6 wide receivers. You don't need him to come in and be a stud and be a difference maker right away. You bring him in, see what he's got, see if you can develop him, if you can help him reach that potential he has. And if he does, great. And if he doesn't, then you move on.
It's a no-lose situation for you. You move on. Speaking of wide receivers, and let's kind of move on here with some more news. In practice today, injury report from the Dolphins side. No injury report from Seattle as of now. But Devontae Parker didn't practice, which is disconcerting to me. Mike Pouncey, we kind of knew that he's going to kind of drift in. The chances of him playing on Sunday, Alan, slim and none at this point.
Not very good.
I wouldn't count on that.
No. Plus, you don't want to rush him. There's
no. Isaiah Peed, Jelani Jenkins, both practice, but on a limited basis. Jelani's going to be the guy that, based on what I saw from Jelani last year, the guy played injured and tried to play when he's injured in multiple games. I know he's going to want to play. We'll find out what happens come kickoff in Seattle on Sunday.
Well, the thing with Jelani is last year, as you mentioned, he played injured most of the season, could never get back to that form of the year before when he was really good. That's why I would expect the Dolphins are going to err on the side of caution. If he's not totally right, why not let him wait a week?
Yeah.
Make sure he's right when he comes back.
It says a lot about Jelani. It said a lot to me about Jelani as a football player last year, going out every week and trying to play. But having said that, you're never going to be able to play up to the level that you should play if you're out there limping around on one foot and on one leg and doing the types of things. And look, I give him a lot of credit for the guts and for the intestinal fortitude to go out and do that. But from a team standpoint, he's got to get healthy and get out there. That means Spencer Pasinger will probably get the start. Neville Hewitt may get some snaps in there as that linebacker spot, but I think Pasinger is going to get the bulk of the work.
That's the indication that we get as well.
All right, let's go ahead and get some questions in here. Like I said, if you've got questions, go ahead and send them in on Facebook. Jason Stavros, Bo, what was the loudest place for you to play in? Loudest place to play in for us? I'll tell you what, the Orange Bowl was a pretty good place to play. It was as loud as any out there. Probably Shea Stadium. I would say Shea Stadium, and this is going back when he used to play baseball at Shea Stadium or play football at Shea Stadium. That was probably one of the louder, just because it was close and those types of things. But this stadium, I was there when we were there 8 years ago, I think, for Seattle in 04, something like that. And it was loud then, and they weren't the franchise of the football team that they are right now. Now that place has got to be just outrageous. So that would be my thought. Okay, let's Kent Baxter. Do you think Coach Gaze is throwing up a bunch of smoke screens for this Seattle game and really is going to come out and surprise the Seahawks? You know, to be honest with you, in this league, there's not a whole lot you can do to surprise anybody. You may throw a little change, a little monkey wrench in there, but I'm a firm believer in this thing that in the National Football League, when the ball's snapped, everybody's running basically the same plays. There may be window dressing, guys moving this and that, and some different theories and this and that, but for the most part, most people are running the same stuff. True,
and going back to one thing you mentioned earlier, that you mentioned that the Seahawks have some familiarity with Adam Gase's offense. They don't with Van Schoss's defense because he's a first-time defensive coordinator, so wouldn't be surprising to see a whole lot of exotic looks from the Dolphins in this game.
Along with that, on the defensive side, you look at that offensive line for Seattle, and that's a completely different offensive line in there. They've moved it around. I think there's one returning starter. The rest of the guys are in there. They got a rookie starting in there. So that may be an opportunity where Vance Joseph, first game of the year, kind of opens up the closet and brings a lot of different looks and trying to take advantage of a porous offensive line. And again, they don't have Marshawn Lynch, so that running game is you would expect is not going to be certainly as physical as it would have been. Christine Michael, Thomas Rawls are the two guys going to handle the running back chores, and neither one of those guys to me looks like Marshawn Lynch.
Nobody looks like Marshawn Lynch, actually. No, you talk to the people in Seattle, their big concern heading into the regular season is the offensive line. And if there's a matchup the Dolphins have to win and have to win big on Sunday, it's that their defensive line against the Seattle offensive line. No question about it.
Strength versus the weakness.
Correct.
And that's the biggest strength versus the weakness of the Seattle Seahawks. So we'll see if they can take advantage of that. You're listening to the Audible here. You can get us on Facebook and send your questions in, also on Periscope and MiamiDolphins.com. All right, Alan. The Dolphins going out there, hostile territory, very young football team. You've watched this football team throughout training camp. How do you feel about this edition of the Miami Dolphins getting ready to get this season started? Let's kind of look inside and do a little self-scouting ourselves as far as this team being ready. Concerns for me continue to be the same concerns that we had at the beginning of training camp. Feel a little better at the cornerback position with Xavier Howard, just because he's the real deal.
Yeah, he looks good.
But experience is going to be an issue for him. Byron Maxwell has kind of been pretty steady out there at that other cornerback position. Then you get beyond those guys, and the questions begin to arise. Linebacker position, even with Jelani Jenkins in there, a concern on the defensive side of the football. How good can they be? How good will they be? Now you take Jelani out and put Spencer Pasinger in there, and that becomes another area of concern for me when I look at this football team.
The way I look at the Dolphins, I'm cautiously optimistic because to me it's a very mysterious team because they have a lot of players that kind of come into the season as unknowns because either they're coming off injuries or they're coming off a subpar season
Yep.
like Mario Williams. Mario
Yep.
Williams averaged 13 sacks a
Yep.
year, and then last year he had 5.5, and everybody thinks,
I'm
well,
with
he's
you.
not a good player anymore. Well, he had 13 sacks the previous 3 years.
Yeah, and you got a guy that's now he's in that 4-3 where he's more comfortable. Put him a little wider out there, which should be perfect for him. The question is, I think the question with Mario is how good does he want to be?
Correct. But he's also put in a situation where it's basically, Mario, you see the quarterback over there,
Yeah,
go get him. Whereas in
yeah.
Buffalo, it's like, okay, Mario, you have to worry about the guy coming out of the backfield.
Yeah.
You're going to have to do this, have to do that.
No, none of that. That's the same with Cam Wake. Now, Cam Wake's he's not going to get the start out there on the football field. Jason Jones will get the start at the defensive end position. Right. But you know how this league is.
He'll play a lot of snaps.
He may be out there in first down if Seattle comes out in a spread offense and opens things up. You might throw him out there. So starting is a little muddy right now.
Correct, and he'll get his snaps. That's like
he's going to get his chance.
That's like the third cornerback spot, which is almost a starter, even though it's not technically a starter.
No doubt. So offensively, when you look at this team, big question. Obviously, going into the season, has been for 4 years, is going to be Ryan Tannehill, and what are we going to see out of Ryan Tannehill? And I've been banging this drum all along during this preseason and going into the season. To me, and maybe I'm wrong, but to me, Ryan has been pretty good quarters 1 through 3.
Okay.
You got to get better in quarter. You got to figure out a way to be that guy in quarter 4 that wins a game for you, and not just kind of lets the offense kind of peter out as the game comes to a conclusion.
I'd go more generic and go, I want to see better decision-making, quicker decision-making in the pocket. I also would like to see Ryan scramble. If the protection breaks down, that's something he doesn't do a whole lot, and he's not because he doesn't have the physical tools, because he's a great runner. So if it's not there, the pocket's collapsing, get out, run.
Well, I think early on in the Dallas game, I think the first play of the game, they ran that little read option. He picked up 20 yards or 17 yards or whatever it was. I would expect to see a little bit of that early in the game, kind of show that, throw it out there that he can and will run, and trying to create that thought in the defense of this football team. But boy, you look at this defense for Seattle, very veteran defense, very good defense, very aggressive defense. They know what they're doing. They're well schooled, and they can bring a lot of pain to an offensive football team. And look, but again, you got an offensive line that I don't know about you, but I feel very, very good about this group out there.
Oh, no question about it. I mean, they solidified the 2 spots that have been, let's be honest, question marks with Laramie Tunsil, who was absolutely fabulous in pass protection throughout the preseason. Jermont Bushrod, a proven commodity on the other side, and then you got the 3 Pro Bowlers, the three other guys.
3 first-round picks.
Correct. And then Anthony Steen, of course, likely will have to make the start at center. But again, he's a capable guy. He's played well.
Played well. Look, he's I remember talking to coaches during training camp. A lot of guys told me the same thing. They said, you look at him without his uniform, and you go, I don't know about that guy. That guy's an NFL offensive lineman. Yeah. But then, and I've played with those guys. You put the pads on them, and they become a different guy. And that's what Anthony Steen has been for him. And all he's done when he's stepped in is done a good job. You're listening to the Audible here. Kim Bokamper with you. Alain Poupart on my side here. We're going to continue to look ahead at the Dolphins and their game with Seattle. But offensive line wise, they're going to get their hands full with a lot of different looks coming out of the Seattle bunch.
If I may interject one thing about Anthony Steen, here's the thing: it's going to be his first NFL regular season game on Sunday, which under normal circumstances would maybe worry you a little bit because there's a stage going to be too big for him. Guy played at the University of Alabama, so he's been in big games all the time. So this is not going to faze him. So that part of it's not an issue, and he's also a very sharp guy. So maybe he's not the most physically imposing offensive lineman there is, but he's a sharp guy.
It's going to be interesting to see what they're able to do with this offense out there against this bunch. I mean, you've got a stable of really, really good receivers out there. I think Leonte Carroo late in training camp really started to come on a little bit, and you're starting to see what they liked about him when they got him out of Rutgers. Kenny Stills, if Kenny Stills can play the way he's been playing during he's a big, much better, much different player than he was last year. Certainly the disappointment, again, is Devontae Parker, that he's not 100%. And I'm not sure how that's going to linger. I'm not sure what his case is going to be on Sunday, whether he's going to be able to play or not. But, didn't practice today, and that to me is a little bit of a telling sign. So that's a little concern to me. And I think the other thing, Alan, is what are we going to get out of the tight end position? They've got to get some production out of that tight end position some way, somehow.
No question about it. And then the thing is, it's not as if Jordan Cameron has never done it before.
Right.
I mean, he was a complete stud when he was with the Browns.
Yep.
Last year, it didn't click with him and Ryan, and part of it, I'm sure, was Jordan. Part of it was Ryan. Part of it is just they weren't connecting. He had his issues with drop passes in the preseason, but he bounced back a little bit toward the end and in practice. There's no reason for this guy not to be able to get it done and put up decent numbers. And Adam Gase's offense has produced good numbers for tight ends.
Yeah, absolutely right. Should. Connor Conkey says, will Ajayi, and Foster be splitting reps to start the season, or do you think Foster will be the workhorse? Well, Foster's getting the start. And I think I think he dictates how many carries he gets. He goes out there and plays the way he used to play. Jay Ajayi may become a distant memory here for the short order.
No
question for me about Foster is a lot less of his ability to run. It's more of his ability to stay healthy.
No question. And in the passing game, he's fabulous. I mean, he runs very good routes. He's got very soft hands. And the thing about him, when you watch him run the ball, his vision is incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, you see him and he spots the opening very quickly, and boom, like that, he's through it. In that sense, he reminds me a whole lot of Ricky Williams in their ability to see the field. And I mean, the guy's impressive. So I'm with you. If he stays healthy, he's going to be productive, no question.
Another guy that's going to be interesting to watch for me, both as a kick punt returner and in the offense. We saw it in the preseason, the second preseason game, is Jakeem Grant, and how do you use him? And I just look at Adam Gase and his offensive mind, and a guy like Jakeem Grant. You can run him out of the backfield. You can use him as a wide receiver. You can run him in the slot. There's a lot of different. He's a guy that if you're Adam Gase, you're looking what's the best matchups I can get with this guy to take advantage of. It's going to be interesting to see how much he plays and where he plays if he gets much time in that offensive unit.
Well, and then that's the question: is how much time is he going to get? Because Coach Gase this week was talking about Grant sort of being a work in progress, still needing to learn some things about the offense. So it wouldn't surprise me, based on those comments, if early in the season at least he doesn't have a big role in offense, that you use him on returns with his explosiveness, and that at some point he gets more and more integrated into the offense, and then you can start using him as a little toy for that offense.
You look at that offense, and let's take a look at this. Richard Sherman, Michael Bennett, Cliff Averill, Cam Chancellor, Earl Thomas. I mean, and that's just a handful of the names that those guys are that are that team. And this is a football team. When you look at the Seattle Seahawks, they're a team that's. I mean, they're one of the favorites to get to the Super Bowl. So let's get some more questions. Esteban Cabreros. Who else can step up in the wide receiver group, knowing perhaps that Jarvis Landry will attract plenty of coverage from Sherman and others? Well, look, I think that there's no doubt Kenny Stills, he needs to step up and have a big game. I think all these receivers, Caru's got to get out there and make some things happen. Again, the tight end, all those. I think that whole passing game has got to be at their very, very best against this group.
No question, and it also wouldn't surprise me if they threw the ball to the backs a lot in this particular game. If Foster caught 6 or 7 passes, it wouldn't surprise me in the least. I would also not be surprised to see them use a lot of two tight end formations because of Parker's injury situation. Is as you mentioned, is very, very troublesome because the guy, when he's on the field, I mean, he looks some kind of impressive. I mean.
This is the Audible. You can catch us on Facebook, Miami Dolphins Facebook page, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. You can also catch us on Periscope and MiamiDolphins.com, and you can check the archives on MiamiDolphins.com and on the Facebook page to catch up any of the shows that have already been done. All right, let's go here. All right, we talked about this. Thoughts about Steen at center. You touched on it. I touched on it. I you know what? Certainly love to have Pouncey in there. But I feel pretty comfortable with Anthony Steen in there, especially with those two guards next to him.
They can give him help. It's not as if he's going to be on an island all the time. So that's not. If you're talking about like a left tackle who is an unproven commodity, it'd be one thing. But at center,
and the one thing about you talk about the two guards coming in, Laramie Tunsil, and we all know his pedigree coming in and everything that he's gone through. But Jermon Bushrod on the other side, look, you got two guys that are football players.
Yep.
They're going to figure out a way to get the job done. And so I have no concern about those guys. And I think indeed they'll help Steen a little bit at that center position.
Oh, no question about it. The offensive line actually, I mean, to me, as you enter the season, the offensive line is actually a strength on this team. And when's the last time we were able to say that?
It's been a long time since we've been able to say it, no doubt. Donnie Redemacher, will we see more quarterback runs in this game? We touched on that a little bit.
Hope so.
I think designed runs, I think called runs for Ryan Tannehill will be there. But I think also I'm with you. They've done a lot of work with him in the pocket during this training camp, moving around in the pocket, getting a feel for where to go, trying to avoid people. But part of that lesson that he's been learning about being in the pocket is knowing when to run when the opportunity is there. So I think we'll see Ryan. I wouldn't be surprised to see Ryan Tannehill by the end of the game with 6, 7, 8 carries. When you look at the game notes after this ball game.
Absolutely, it's a good working number. And the one thing that Coach Case mentioned is that when he took over and he looked at Ryan, he did very, very little tinkering with his mechanics.
Yeah.
It was mostly intangibles, getting rid of the pocket presence, making quick decisions. And that's what's going to come into play on Sunday.
Yep, no doubt. Carlos Beltran, I don't believe this is Carlos Beltran, Scudia. Some of these, I think we get some of these people coming in. People are throwing names out there,
Good baseball player.
He is a very good baseball player, but I don't think Carlos Beltran Scudia is a very good baseball player. Maybe. Hey,
yeah.
What do I know? What do you think the keys to winning the AFC East is this year? I think the keys to winning the AFC East is basically everything we've been talking about. Football team's got to play better. They've got to beat New England week 2 up there. I mean, if you want to win the AFC East this year in particular, and you go up to New England in week 2 without Tom Brady, and you walk out with your tail between your legs, then that's a big blow to any chance that you have to winning the AFC East.
They have to have a good record in the AFC East.
Yep.
In division games, which they haven't had in a while. When they won the division in 2008, I believe they were 4-2.
Got a big Buffalo one time. That'd be nice.
That would be nice.
That
would be a start. And again, I mentioned like all of the unknowns with the injury situations, and then guys looking to bounce back, whether from injury or from performance. Arian Foster, Mario Williams, Cameron Wake. I mean, there are a lot of those. And if the answers to the question marks come in the right way, this is good. This could be a very good team.
Yeah, health always an issue, but health really an issue for this football team. Mike Anderson, is Gase going to attack the league differently now that he has a mobile quarterback? I don't think he's going to change much when anything he's done. I mean, he's got what he likes, and when you talk to Adam about his offense, it's kind of an accumulation of different things from all the different coaches that he's worked with over the years, which I'm sure every offensive coordinator, head coach is got that same kind of a pedigree into him.
Here's the thing: he's been operating the last several years with Peyton Manning and Jay Cutler, who can't move.
Right.
And then, he was on the staff when they had Tim Tebow in Denver, and they did a lot of things running the football with him.
Yeah.
At some point, he's going to look at Ryan Tannehill and go, I could do some interesting things with that.
I'm sure he has, and I'm sure he will. But you're also, he's not Tim Tebow, where it's like running out there with a guy that's 260 pounds. And
I could see him integrating more running into the offense than he has in the last couple of years.
I agree with that. No question about that. Christian Page, why have we only addressed the wide receiver group with Hunter, but the units of need we have seemed to set? In other words, they went out and picked up a wide receiver when we got a deep group of wide receivers. But there's concerns at linebacker, there's concerns at cornerback, defensive tackle, maybe not as big a concern as he has with it, but certainly
Chris Jones was a really nice player,
which was surprising to me.
Yeah, same here.
So are you surprised that they haven't gone out and maybe shopped around for look? Well, I was kind of looking at the waiver wires of the other team. Not a whole lot out there.
No, correct. The two names that stuck out on Saturday were Justin Hunter was one of them. Jay Samaro, the tight end from the Jets.
Right.
Well, Tennessee, which has first dibs on all waiver claims, claimed him.
Claimed him more,
So basically, if the Dolphins wanted him, they had no shot at him. Yeah. So the other names, as you mentioned before,
some of these, you live in South Florida. You want these things, but it's like going to the grocery store the day before a hurricane's going to hit. Yeah. Everything's out. Everything's gone. Everything that's usable is gone. The rest of the stuff there you don't want anyway.
I also haven't looked up the stats, but there are not that many players who get waived, claimed by another team, and go on to be.
No, you're right. So. This is the Audible. Kim Bokamper, Alain Poupart with you. We'll be with you until about 5 o'clock. So we got a little while to get to more of your questions here. Douglas McKelvey, do we have any, and I mean any, mismatches versus the Seahawks? Well, I think our defensive front against that offensive line is certainly a mismatch. So I don't think there's any question about that. And maybe one of the most important mismatches that you could have going into a game like this.
No question about it. And this, as I said before, this is where the Dolphins have to win this game. Their strength against Seattle's
mismatch on defense with our defensive front. And also, I wouldn't call it a mismatch, but you would call it a little bit of a mystery with Vance Joseph coming in as a defensive coordinator, and what you're going to see out of him, especially when he knows that they've got an offensive line that's a little bit unsettled that you may be able to take advantage of. So there may be another, not really a mismatch, but certainly it's something that can play into the picture.
And in this game, he may not have to get that exotic. He may have just let his guys win the battles one-on-one.
Yeah. Steve, is there a length? Is the length of travel a concern? Well, look, the Dolphins they're doing something I've never seen them do. They're going out to Seattle tomorrow. They're going out traveling on Thursday for a Sunday game. There'll be no practice tomorrow for the football team. They'll get a chance to rest their legs a little bit. They'll practice there on Friday and Saturday, have a walkthrough, and then play the game on Sunday. And talking to Coach Gaze, these coaches, they check out every angle of this thing. And he's talked to enough coaches where they felt like traveling to the east to west. You go a day early, and that second day you're still a little sluggish when so he wants to kind of get that out of the way and get this team ready to play. So look, it's another way to try it, and we'll see how it works out there. But look, you've had 10 days off since your last game, so it affords you the latitude to go out a little bit early, and I think they're just taking advantage of it.
No, correct. And it's a tough road trip because, yes, the travel is a concern because it's the longest intercontinental road trip you can have in the NFL. But it's not like the Dolphins have never won in Seattle. I mean, you can think back to that playoff game.
And look, as tough as it is to play, I think Seattle was 5-3 last year at home. So it's not like they're completely unbeatable in that building. And so there's an opportunity. Morgan Kelmbach, do you think Steen could stay at center when Palsy comes back and move him to guard?
Yeah, I've heard that one before.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, why? I mean, the only way I see that happening is if you get an injury to one of your tackles and you got to move one of those guys out there and then you slide Palsy into guard. But all things being equal, you want your Pro Bowl center to be playing the position that he went to the Pro Bowl in, I would think.
Although he did go to the Pro Bowl at guard as well. No, the only way that happens is if there's like a calamity, either through injury or poor performance, and then Steen is a complete stud at center.
Lucas Heinrich, what's your opinion of our run defense? I think we'll have to wait and see as far as I'm concerned. I'm very, very confident with the guys up front. A little concerned with run support, turning it back in, getting things upfield, turning it back in. And we're going to have to see better play out of the linebackers than we saw during the preseason games. I think Kiko Alonso he's got to be more closer to the Kiko Alonso that he was when he was a rookie up in Buffalo than the Kiko Alonso of last year in Philadelphia. So that's got to happen, and certainly in game one with Jelani Jenkins out there, Spencer Pasinger is going to have to play a big role, and Misi is going to have to stay healthy throughout the course of the season. I think that, to me, that's the only knock on me. Maybe not the best cover guy out there, but health has been his issue more than anything else.
No, correct. And you mentioned the depth in the secondary as one of your concerns on defense. My concern is I'd like to see more playmaking out of the linebacker position, which we haven't seen in the last couple of years. And this defense, which funnels a lot of things towards the middle, towards the linebackers, is conducive to that, so the guys have to step up and do it.
Yep. You're listening to The Audible. Kim Bokamper here, Alain Poupart. We're with you every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday here in The Audible. You can catch us on Facebook, on Periscope, and MiamiDolphins.com. Michael Card, strength of schedule, difficult, all caps. He's screaming at us, schedule strength, difficult. I think that's a pretty fair conclusion, right? When you start with Seattle on the road, New England on the road, come back and play Cleveland, and then go back to Cincinnati on the road on a Thursday night. Cincinnati is a sneaky, tough place to play, man. You talk about New England and Seattle, but Cincinnati is a very, very sneaky, tough place to play.
No, and the Bengals on top of that,
are a good football team.
Quarterback aside, have the best talent in the NFL. But the flip side to it's a brutal early schedule. The flip side to that, and then they come back home. They're 5 straight weeks at home with a bye in between. So I mean, it balances out, and the strength of schedule thing. We'll know at the end of the year if the schedule is difficult because you don't know how the teams are going to play.
I go back from the school of 1 week at a time, take care of that because you don't know. I mean, if you're going up to Seattle, you're thinking all off season, go up to Seattle, play opening game up there. It's going to be a tough place to play. It's going to be tough. And all of a sudden, the week before Russell Wilson pulls a hamstring, he's out of the game. All of a sudden, it doesn't look as tough as it did. Correct. So things change. Yeah. Things change week to week as far as teams do. So it's hard to judge. It's easy. It's fun to do in its whole before the season starts. But then once the season goes on, the quality of the teams change almost on a week-to-week basis.
You just don't know. I mean, there are rare occasions when you can know before season starts, boy, this division is really bad, and the Dolphins happen to play that division. But more often than not, you don't know. I mean, they play the NFC West right now. You figure Arizona and Seattle are going to be really good, and you figure St. Louis is going to be meh, and Frisco is going to really struggle. Yeah. But who's to say?
L.A.
Oh, sorry, I did say St. Louis.
St. Louis.
Oh, shame on me.
L.A. The Rams.
And I watched Hard Knocks last night.
The Rams are finally back where they've always belonged in Los Angeles, and we're going to be back.
As a California guy.
That's it, all the way. Alan, always a pleasure, my man.
Enjoyed it.
All right, we'll catch you again another time.
Absolutely.
And looking forward to the game. You're going to give me a little prediction here?
I don't do predictions. No. The team that scores the most points will win.
Team that plays the best defense wins the game. I'm always going to go on that.
Okay, that works. I've spoken like a true defensive player.
All right, you've been watching the Audible. We'll be back on Friday. Friday we'll be coming to you live from Seattle, so you can catch us there. We'll have somebody out on the football field and have some good stuff there. But so Friday and then Monday. So have a good weekend. Enjoy the game, and hopefully we get a big Dolphin win.
That would be a great way to start the season.
All right, we'll see you next time.